Hello everyone, Untitled Chapter. Welcome to another mod overview, this time on More Overlays Updated. A mod that simply adds in the ability for you to see chunk boundaries, light level, and have an item search option if you have JDI installed. And this is, yes of course, an updated version of the More Overlays mod. So, what you can do is pretty much activate with F7 a display that shows either red or yellow crosses or X's, and pretty much what these are for is to show the light level as well as obviously mobs being able to spawn on here. So there'll only be yellow and red, there's not going to be any changes depending, but obviously if you've got a torch here, it'll remove them because it's now preventing mobs from spawning. So anywhere that there is a yellow X, mobs can spawn. If you go into cave systems, which are a lot more darker, you'll see the red one, which pretty much appears if you have, obviously, caves or a covered room that has no light source inside it. So if you just had a certain covered up area with, I don't know, we'll just say a bunch of planks or something, just dig out a area here, maybe just prevent some light from going in, you'll see the red ones, which means any mobs can spawn in here without the consideration of obviously the sun at all. So yeah, so as long as you have a torch, you can pretty much obviously prevent mobs from spawning, and this is a way of telling you in that the mobs still can spawn in the area because there's no torches here. Or obviously in a cave, of course, it'll be the case where there's no sunlight that'll make it awkward for them. So yeah. Otherwise, you've got chunk borders, which you can do like so, which I'll get to the key bindings in a minute. And you've got the center, you've got the corners with the yellow and obviously the red. So center with the yellow, red with the corners. We go to the same key binding, we've got the sort of wall here showing in each different side that's part of the boundary. And you've got this one here, which seems to stretch out as far as your actual viewing distance. This is for the region. So I don't know that much about this one, but yeah, there is this option as well. So the three options with chunk borders, which is 1, 2, and 3. And then with the light level, you've got 1 and 2, so just on and off of those. So you can also change the keybinds, which the light level one is F7 and the chunk boundaries is F9, so you can change those to whatever you want if you don't want those types of keys being used. Finally, there is an item search option, which if you have JEI installed, you will be able to access this. If you don't, then obviously you can't access it. So this pretty much works where if you have something in your inventory, and you just go here, and you say pumpkin for example, it'll highlight the pumpkin, but anything that is not a pumpkin will not be visible or highlighted. Anything that obviously has the word in it. So if we just go that now, because it's looking for pumpkin, not pump, it's not going to highlight it. So it has to fit the word here and then highlight exactly whichever's there. So with diamond block, for example, those two aren't highlighted, that one is. So it makes it easier to find things there in your inventory. Or if, for example, you were searching something in the creative menu, we'll just go with, I guess, diamond here. We can see all the stuff that's searched there. Anything that's not diamond, it's not going to highlight it. So go with, say, planks, for example. It'll show only those, and it won't show anything else. If we go with the oak, then obviously it's different. Yeah. So that makes things easier to find what's in your inventory, what's inside a chest, for example, as well. So we just do this and go chest. Then the way to actually activate this is to pretty much just double click on the search bar and it'll go into highlight mode and go, okay, we're ready, and now lapis, and you've now found lapis in your inventory, or chest, or whichever you're searching through. Otherwise, there is configs that allows you to change a bunch of aspects regarding the light overlay, chunk board, or chunk bounds, chunk borders, and render settings. So there's no item setting, item search, or certain other configs here. And the 1.16 version does not have configs yet, but the 1.15 does. That's why I'm covering it. So With the configs for the light overlay, at least, you can change the Y positive or negative with an up range or a down range. This will pretty much, I assume, be just how it sort of presents them, I guess, or the light level range that's considering. So from as high as light level 16 to as low as light level 4, I assume. Or just the distance at which you see these. Also, I think actually, yeah, so the Y level distance you see them. So if we actually just go F7, let's see. Yeah, so now we can't really see them as much. So that's the distance difference there. So 16 or 4 blocks or so. If we go any higher, we still can't see any of them. But if we go down lower, we can see them now. So that's pretty much what that's for on positive or negative axis of the Y level. You've got the ability for you to set the range of the light overlay being presented from a horizontal north, east, south, and west sort of way. So you've got the sort of H range or height range, I assume that's supposed to be there to change. So by default it's 16, and I assume maybe that's the highest as well. I'm not too sure. You've got ignore if there is no 2 block space to spawn, so also less lag. So I'm assuming this is for ignoring layers. Actually, let me just go here, because my guess is that's to do with, say, maybe 300 caves. So it won't display anything in here because there's now no 2 blocks. So there's 2 blocks there, so it's a possibility of mobs spawning. Obviously, you're not going to get things like silverfish or others being considered without a mob spawner. But of course, certain mobs could spawn in there. It's just it's mostly counting the 2 block high or taller mobs that are able to spawn in these areas, rather than the smaller ones that can fit in a 1 block space. So yeah, you can obviously consider those sorts of spaces or not, which it's false by default. You've got a setting for if mobs can actually spawn according to other mods, and biome spawn lists and otherwise are considered, so you can ignore or allow the spawn list of obviously other mods biomes to be considered, I guess. You've got blocks that can allow and disallow spawns for different entity types. So this checks for, okay, sorry, the check for this is very format. So yeah, setting this will to true increase performance but decrease accuracy. So that's the actual process of it doing things, of going, okay, this is the actual light overlay stuff, or allowing or disallowing mobs to spawn on this stuff. So yeah, I guess something like that. And you've got the minimum safe light level when no mobs can spawn, which is a safe level 8, which I think most mobs pretty much are level 7 and under, I think, can spawn. So makes sense why the 8 is the safe level there. For chunk bounds ones, you've got obviously a radius to set to show the edges, which are the red lines, and the middle. So if you do or don't want to see the middle yellow line or the center of the chunk, you can turn that off. And the radius in which it shows the edges of the red lines, or the edges being the red lines. So yeah. And then for rendering options, you've got the color for the chunk edge, so obviously a bunch of certain numbers there, possibly representing X and such even. You've got the color for the chunk grid, middle chunk line, chunk boundaries, color that the X marks spawn, the spawns at night possible, so obviously the yellow and the red, so obviously that'd be yellow, and that's the red one. And you've obviously got the night color, which I assume is maybe the chunk boundary, not actually change the night color when visible with some settings, I don't know. And you've got the line width for spawn indication. So yeah, so you can pretty much change that setting there for the line width, and you can change obviously a bunch of different colors for which lines you've got. So if you don't want them to be, I guess, red and yellow, or I guess in consideration of the chunk border one, you've obviously got the certain thing here, you can change that as well to whichever. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.